Hello.
What's up, everybody?
We are live for episode 9 of Pontiac Power Hour. Can you believe we've made it 9 episodes so far?
That's crazy, man. I really didn't know we'd ever make it past 1.
I didn't even think we'd do the one, but it just, kind of happened out of nowhere. And here we are. Well, for those of us that just joined out of Straight Six Fans show, he had Derek from Bicycle Garage and Jessica on there chatting away. I got him to at least talk about one question, which involved Pontiacs, which was his latest build on his Motor Trend show. So, of course, I invited him to join us for Pontiac Power Hour, not only today, but maybe on a later episode. So that should be fun.
That's pretty awesome, man.
Yeah. You can never get too big to, remember where you came from.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, let's check out who is in the chat. We, of course, we have Hunter from Sand Mountain Ballistics, always in. Roland from Torque Racing Productions in here. Let's see. Cousin Mike, Landon Custom Classics. Dakota's Timeout, who has an awesome Pontiac, by the way. And let's see. Smacky's Garage in here, Mr. Polo C4. Thank you for joining us.
That's DS.
That's DS. Just got a different
yes, sir.
Huh?
Yeah, he's starting his own YouTube channel.
That's right. I'm looking forward to that. Paul Meyer, Flat Tires and Misfires. Make sure to give that guy a sub and a like as well. He's got a cool Pontiac with a power stroke. And the old J-Ray or J-Ray Racing. And
got that wicked
Tim
little
Mopar.
duster.
Oh, yeah. You can't have Mopar without Tim. He's in here. Colleen Tebow and Nathan's Mopar Garage. Thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate you coming in. So we're here to talk about some Pontiacs again. Big surprise.
Did you say Paul Meyer? I don't know who that is. I've never seen him before. Hello.
How about that? There he is. Yeah. Hello, Paul.
Welcome to the show.
We appreciate everybody dropping in.
Now we have Buck does it.
Oh, goodness. Now we got to be on our best behavior.
Now.
What the buck?
What the buck?
Very cool. Well, as everybody's rolling in, make sure you smack the old like. We like that. Gives us happy feeling in our special spots there. Oh, Paul Meyer is the sound editor for Get Out and Drive podcast. Awesome.
Well, that is awesome.
I enjoy the Get Out and Drive podcast. If you want to check all of that out, make sure to head on over to that channel. And we now know who the sound editor is. That's cool.
That is really cool.
Woo! Another week and it's getting colder.
Yeah, how cold is it up there where you're at?
Well, let me look. It says, too cold. It was like 42 this morning. It says 56 now. Either way, it's under 70, so I'm not liking it at all.
I love it, man. This is perfect.
Here's what I'll say. I used to be okay with the cold weather, and then I spent 10 years in Alaska, and I no longer like cold weather anymore.
Yeah, but this is like summer compared to Alaska.
Oh, summer in Alaska did not include humidity or wind. If it was 70, it was 70. And if it was 30, it was 30. None of this negative 19 stuff.
It's the humidity, it changes stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And here I want to, head on over to Tennessee maybe in the year or so. And I think there might be some humidity there too.
Well, we got square body stuff just snuck in.
Awesome. Welcome, Chad, because race truck.
Because racetrack.
Yep. Cousin Mike's got some snow up north there. Not if you watched his channel at all, he's got a few shorts out there showing that. Looks like it's not much fun at all.
I'm gonna drive the Lemans in the snow. I'm not joking.
Well, so I'll be honest, I won't have the all-wheel drive Trans Am done while there's still snow on the ground. But man, that sure would be fun. Four-wheel burnouts in the snow.
All-wheel drive burnouts with some horsepower. Actually, the first time I ever did that was in a GMC Cyclone. Me and one of my friends may have borrowed his dad's truck and done some donuts in a wet parking lot. And that's why I've always wanted one of those.
Hey, so that brings up a good point. So in Straight Six Fan Show, they talked about the like the soda versus pop versus that kind of thing where you live, right?
Right.
What do you call it where you live? Well, then it was also, what do you call a donut? You call it, like I've heard it called Brodies. I've heard it called donuts. I'm not going to use some of the words, but whipping some of those types of things. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Just where you live, what do you call it? And like Alaska, I always felt like it was cutting Brodies.
Yeah. That's funny.
Speaking of burnouts, there may be a video coming on the Pontiac Grand Prix and whether or not it can spin the tires.
I'll bet it can.
I'm not going to give it away yet because it might be a special ending.
Oh, boy.
It might be the ending. I don't know. We'll see.
As long as it ain't No Name Nationals type ending, you're good. Square body stuff, perpetual projects.
Well, my drive shaft was built out of 3 other drive shafts, so
it's good to go then.
But I don't have a third gear to worry about, so we're good.
It don't have third gear?
I don't know. I've never gotten there yet. I mean, it pretty much stayed in first and shifted into second, and I felt good about that.
Glenn Nickerson wants to know if we're talking about mechanical mayhem or food donuts.
Yes.
Yeah.
The answer is yes.
Even though I'm diabetic and I'm not supposed to have donuts, I still partake in, the sweets.
See now, flat tires and misfires, he defines it. Donuts are on pavement, Brodies are in the dirt.
Oh, there you go.
There's a lot of dirt and gravel in Alaska, so that makes sense. Yep. You got Dean Stevenson, Alan's Cars and stuff. Just everybody rolling in. So awesome.
We've got a packed house tonight. Thank you, everybody.
Well, since we have so many here today, we thought we'd bring you something special. And we know you are just going to love the history that we brought today. So before you try to straight up shoot us, let's switch on over and start that.
Hunters.
Whoops, I cut you off.
I just said Hunter was going to love this one because, this is,
This seems right up his alley, or not. I don't know how well this is going to go over, but what I do know is that it is a Pontiac and it is relevant. So today we are going to talk about and do trivia on the last GTO. Oh, we got Miss Squarebody in the house. We better be on our best behavior.
Straight Six Fan is in the house also. Welcome.
Awesome. Thanks for coming in, Grant. We appreciate you. All right. So this one's going to be a tough one to tackle. Like so many other of the Pontiacs, this one has probably stirred up more debate than just about any of them. Because the big question comes, is this even a Pontiac? Is this even uh, worthy of being called a GTO? And so we're going to spend the next probably 30 minutes looking through the history of it. And you know what? It kept the Pontiac brand alive for a while. So it deserves at least its own Pontiac Power Hour.
Right. I mean, we would gladly take an LS Pontiac right now, I would believe.
I mean, guys want to hate on the Pontiacs, but I'm with you. If 2023, 2024 says we're bringing back a Pontiac, it's got an LS, but it's a Pontiac, I think we'd have to deal with it, you know?
Oh, Hunter, we will cover that too, buddy. It's in here. Don't worry.
All right. Well, let's just get started then. So, I want to thank Ray for coming up with the topic this week. My week has been super busy. Post No Name Blues have kicked in severely, and with that, I uh, I simply have to struggle to get things done. And then, of course, I'm trying to make up all the money that I spent getting the car ready for No Name, so I work a lot. So he came up with the topic and threw together a lot of information, and here we go. So, the last GTO, Pontiac's last attempt at a true muscle car. Now, before you start laughing yourself out of the chat, you have to understand that it was 3 decades after Pontiac made the last GTO when they decided to relaunch the Pontiac GTO classic into a new form. Now, as we've seen with Dodge, we've seen with movie Ghostbusters, and just about every other movie they've tried to relaunch, it doesn't always go so well. And here's where I think Pontiac got bold and took a chance and ended up making something that if you found one now, you'd probably want it. Maybe not at the time, which is why they don't make them anymore. But at the time, or now, I think you might want to. So basically, this modern version of the GTO was just an imported version of another car. It was rear wheel drive, and it was built by General Motors Holden brand out of Australia. So our Australia fans in the chat know all about this brand. Personally, I think the Holden brand is pretty awesome. They have a Ute.
The Ute is cool.
We don't have a Ute. They have a Ute. So anyway, moving on. So we're not going to dog on Holden. They have a Ute. So basically, without Holden, Pontiac would have never resurrected that GTO. And they took the Holden, they took it from the right hand to the left hand drive, rebadged it, and bam, kicked it out the door.
They basically did the same thing with the G8 too. It was the
right, absolutely,
Holden, some Commodore or something.
Yep, it sure was. And you know that G8, it with all of the upgrades you could put on that thing, that car's a screamer.
I want one. I really like this GTO we're talking about. I wanted one when they first came out. I still want one. They're almost affordable now.
Do you remember the Chevrolet SS? It didn't have it was its model name was the SS.
That was also based off the Holden.
Yep, it was a 1-year car, and it came and went in 1 year, and it was awesome. So you get another one of those that, if you can find it, it's a pretty neat car. All right, so here's what happened. Basically, Pontiac saying we got to do something different. We got to try to bring the muscle car world, or at least the muscle car enthusiast, back to our brand. Because really, what did they have to offer at the time? Not a whole lot.
A minivan, a front-wheel drive car, and I think they was making that Pontiac Aztec at the time.
Oh, right. So Breaking Bad kind of stuff. Anyway, So
That's
Bob
one we
Lutz,
forget about.
right? So Bob Lutz, he was the product boss over at General Motors. He basically became the driving force to bring this 2004 GTO into the U.S. market. Um, at the time, they didn't have, like you just said, they didn't have a V8 powered rear wheel drive. They just didn't. And this was a brand that's famous for we build excitement. How do you build excitement out of a Pontiac Aztek?
Ooh, yeah.
Unless it's full of meth, it ain't going to happen. So that's delirium. And anyway, moving on. So he basically went, why reinvent the wheel here? We literally have the wheel in Australia. So we're going to just tap into what they already got going, rebadge it, and send it over. So you've got the Australia version has the Commodore and the Monaro, and they both feature the Chevy LS V8 power, independent rear suspension, rear wheel drive. This just seems like a good match. So this one particular VX platform was ideal to just quickly convert a few little things, and bam, you got a Pontiac sitting on the showroom floor. And again, trying to rebuild the Pontiac performance division. All right, Dr. Art's trolling in the chat here. Hate it all you want, but it did exist. It is a Pontiac, and we're going to talk about it. Cousin Mike says we should hit a Aztek with a monster truck. Well, if you have a monster truck, hit up Barrows, see if we can get a monster truck.
I can find an Aztek.
Oh, yeah. And Glenn says, would it even change the look? Probably.
I don't know what. That's a whole nother show. Don't get me started.
Nope. All right. And I'm not saying we won't visit the Aztek later in life, but we're probably not going to visit the Aztek till later in life. All right. So here we go. Basically, like we said, the Holden Pontiac GTO, it was a Pontiac, but it wasn't. It kept the basic, we switched right-hand to left-hand drive, had to change a few regulatory things from Australia to U.S. standard, but it just threw on the badges and stuck it out there. First time since 1974 they had a GTO. Now, it obviously met to a lot of disgruntled Pontiac guys, but there was a few optimists out there that said, hey, wait a minute. It's rear-wheel drive. It's got a V8. There might be something to this. So, yeah, they kicked it out there. So this car was actually built in Elizabeth, South Australia, and pretty much the interior was the Holden Monaro interior with all the same plastic trim. Oh, there's Bob showing off the new GTO. At the time, that's kind of a cool car.
I really like to put this. I really want seats out of one to put in my Pontiac. They look really good in those.
You know what that is? There's the Holden. See the logo on the front, guys? What I would say is look how close it already looks like a Pontiac. All they really had to do was a few basic things, and they had themselves a car. And here it is, Holden Pontiac. It really is just that close. All right. I just put a little cutaway here so you can kind of see how the whole car was set up. Big V8 in the front, had a traditional transmission feeding rear-wheel drive independent rear suspension, and 4-person seating. So yes, it could have been a 5-seater, but it isn't. It's a 4-seater.
I think Hunter's going to leave us.
Hunter, don't leave us. Come on, buddy. We need you here for the chat. All right. So we got this little picture here showing just some of the various differences between the two cars, but obviously they're very, very similar.
They didn't change much.
No, that's how they were successful at making this work. And there she is, the GM 5.7 LS1 slammed, crammed, and jammed into that Pontiac / Holden front end. And you know what? Lightweight car, rear-wheel drive, plenty of power. Isn't that kind of the definition of a muscle car?
I think so.
We can't be era specific on this. What'd Grant say? 96, 2006, the Ford Contour era, where everything with the arrow nose makes you think of the Ford Contour. I get that.
I agree. This looks like a Grand Am, a Grand Prix.
Yep. They all shared basically the same look on the front. They could have tweaked it a bit, maybe brought that grill out a little bit. I mean, it looked better than the other GTO. Oh, wait, they didn't have another GTO, so.
Well, at least it wasn't a Camaro that they just turned into a GTO for some reason. I mean.
Yes. So, obviously, from our chat already, and of course, sales figures, the GTO launched with a pretty dismal reception. So this first new GTO in 30 years definitely got a lot of positive and negative feedback. But ultimately, you know, people were like, it's there, it exists. They didn't think the styling was that great. Felt like it was dated, could have been more modern. Obviously, the engine was fine. It was great for quarter mile times. So all in all, it wasn't a complete failure. It just really wasn't, I think, what the Pontiac fans wanted. See, Arrowhead Garage is not that, like, he gets it.
I like I said, I like them, especially, but I would want the 06 that had the LS2 with the TR6060 transmission instead of the T56. But
I think we're getting to that. I might have a picture of it.
I'm jumping ahead.
No, it's that's the whole point of the show, man. We got to talk about it. It had been burnt and the motor and tranny was pulled. And yet still $3,000. So what's that tell you about it?
I can find them around here in fairly nice shape for around 10.
Now go find that fully loaded G8.
Yeah.
For anything less than $20,000.
And to get a 6-speed in a G8, you have to get the G8 GXP.
Yeah. So I've looked really hard. My wife loves Grand Prix. I mean, we ended up with a big Grand Prix, but she likes the newer plastic version Grand Prix. And we looked really hard, and I said, well, why don't you get this GXP? This is like the evolution, right? Whew. 20, 30 grand minimum for those. Yeah, not happening. Still very, very cool car, but I'm not paying that kind of money for it. Yeah. So a lot of people were disappointed when it actually come out. It is cool to think that, hey, we've got the GTO coming back. This might be a win. It's rear-wheel drive. It's V8. And then when it come out, we're like, no, never mind.
It's a Cobalt with
it's just a little bigger, but
a little bigger Cobalt.
Yep, for sure. So there's the interior. Lots of plastics. That's that's not just a GM thing. That's an everybody thing. But really, it's the Holden interior just flipped and rebadged. And even though we had a V8 in here, people wanted more. So, oh yeah, there's your seats. Check those babies out.
Yeah, those are sweet.
Those would look good in the Punisher Lemans.
They would. They're expensive though. People want like $600 just for the seats.
Wow.
Yeah.
So comfortable looking. Yeah. I need some of those. And then the rears. So this is what I was talking about is you could have had a bench back there, but that's not how they built it. It's got these 2 seats, so it's a 4-seater. It's still very cool, very comfortable, very plush. All right, so here's where they decided we got to step this up. People are hating on our car, and we don't like that. So with GM listening to the crowd, they decided to kick it up a notch in 2005, upgraded to the LS2 V8, 400 horsepower, 400 pounds of torque. That thing's a beast. That's the same type of engine I'm putting in the Trans Am. So from the factory, 400 horse, and we're going to take it Ed's machine and kick it up a notch. But
there you go.
Oh yeah, Ed's going to do me good on that one. So just think about it. You got a car that was producing somewhere between 230, maybe 290 horse. Now we just kicked her up to 400. That's pretty awesome. So yeah, you could get it with the old 4-speed automatic or that 6-speed manual Tremec gearbox you talked about. That 13-second quarter mile, far quicker than any stock GTO of the 60s. Not dogging on our GTOs. We love them. But that was a fast little mover. Now, what happened? See, there you go. There's your 2006. Look at that baby.
See, once they put the hood scoops on and stuff, it just looks good.
Yep, this has got the skirts on there. It's got the mesh in the grill. Don't be hating, guys. That car pulling up next to you may look like a grocery getter, but properly equipped or even upgraded, she's a fast little mover. So we are car guys. We can't hate on all the cars. We may hate on a certain trend or, whatever, but this is still a Pontiac. It may not have come from Pontiac, but it wore the Pontiac badge and it wore it fairly well. Oh, here's our Australian Holden Elizabeth plant. So I've dug around until I found a picture of the Holden plant. I really like their lion on the front. That's pretty cool. But let's get to that. So 2005 came along. All right. We threw the bigger engine in it. People like it. However, it was at this time the Australian dollar was climbing in value. So that pushed our little Holden car that was the base for this Pontiac, pushed the car value up. So when Pontiac originally priced this car out, they wanted to keep it around 25 grand. At the time, that was a reasonable enough number to say you're getting something better than a Chevy Cobalt or Cavalier or whatever was popular at the time. It's not quite the Trans Am, but it's still up there, So when you take that 25,000 price point, you match that against an unfavorable exchange rate, your base price is now creeping up to around 30 grand. Well, by that point, you got a car that's worth 5 grand more than you want to sell it for. And people that are looking in their pockets going, man, I should have bought one last year because I can't afford the one this year. And obviously the sales just fell.
Yeah.
So by February of 2006, the sales couldn't keep up. They just couldn't make it work. And so Pontiac says, all right, we're done. And they pulled the plug on the GTO and said it would be discontinued. So that production total for that 5th generation GTO only amounted to 40,808 cars.
Which is not that many.
That is not that many. So again, we talk about guys saying that's not really a Pontiac. It's not really this. It's not really that. Okay, fine. But you know what? There's only 40,000 cars out there. And I'm sure they're not all still on the road.
No, half of them's been freaking jacked from their drivetrain
Yeah.
to put
Or,
it in a 68 GTO.
one too many Frosties, and they took it off the edge of the road, or deer damage, or I guess kangaroo damage, whatever. You never know.
Yeah, kangaroos are pretty good size. I mean,
You don't want a roo jacking with your Monero there.
no.
All
Those
right.
Aussies know how to have a good time down there, though.
Oh, yeah.
When the Aussies show up to burnout contests, we're losing, I guarantee you, because they will freaking send it.
Well, that's like a No Name Nationals. We didn't have a burnout competition. We had an Aussie style burnout competition, which is pretty awesome. I say I love that Grant's here because not only is a fellow Kansas guy, he knows he can look at a car and he knows, which he has a Grand Prix right now. So thank you, Grant, for coming along. We might get Grant coming in here one of these nights talking about his Grand Prix. We can compare Grand Prix.
He just said peace out.
Oh, as soon as I talk about him, he says I'm gone.
Have a good night, sir. Thanks for stopping. And Irish Outlaw snuck in here on us, too.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, so if you haven't seen Flying Sparks Garage, go check them out. The girl's obviously, awesome. She's very well connected in the YouTube and Motor Trend world. She has a killer GTO. That car is sweet, and she daily drives that sucker.
I don't think I've seen it, actually. I'm going to have to check it out.
Oh. Grant says he might have to come see me this Sunday. Well, Grant, I'm out of town until Sunday evening, taking my kids down to Grandma's, but I'll be around beyond that. We'll figure it out. All right. Where are we at? Holden plant. So Holden's kicking along. We talked about the price of the Australian dollar going up. GTO says no more, and they stopped making them. So now fast forward. Oh, there's the Commodore. We talked about that G8. That's what the Commodore's based on. Is that Holden? The Holden Commodore is the G8, Pontiac G8.
I'm just going to throw it out there that there is a lot of G8s and GTOs that have Holden badges on them here in Joplin. So.
Oh, they just swap them out?
Yeah, people want to have a Holden, so they take their American version and put the Holden badges on it, which I'm not hating on it. I just think it's kind of funny.
Yeah, it is funny. It's a cool, obviously you're not going to import one in, being that they're wrong side drive, but it is neat that that's basically what they are anyway. So, all right. So the Monero platform obviously doesn't exist anymore. They went to this Commodore platform for quite a while. It seems as though GM and Holden discontinued that platform as of 2006. So basically, they ended up with Pontiac and Holden both going, all right, we're done. And in 2006 just said that we're not making these anymore.
They started making the Monaro in 01, though. It went from 01 to like 06.
And then, in that body style?
Yeah.
And then we made the Pontiac in 04.
Yeah, and then
there you go. There's the Ute. I had to get a picture of the Ute.
See, that is a G8 with a truck bed. So it's a Pontiac Camino.
It's cool.
It is cool. I want one.
And every once in a while you see one running around here. Not me personally, but there are some running around.
There's a guy that has a car lot here in town. He has one.
An actual Holden Ute.
Yeah, it's right-hand drive. I was like, I wonder if he wants a Le Mans.
You can't trade the Punisher for a Ute.
I wouldn't, but
Right. Oh, look at that. Once they're 25 years old, they'll be legal to import.
I'm just going to let you know right now that he has researched the crap out of importing cars from Japan. He's even got some guy he contacted with that does it. So he knows all about importing these cars from other countries.
Yep. Fellow mullet car driver there, Mr. J. Irish Outlaw. Dean knows what he's talking about.
Yep.
Welcome, Tim Windsor. As he always says, hit the like. All right.
There he is. You said it, and then he said it.
Do I know my audience or do I know my audience? Thanks, Tim. We appreciate you, buddy.
Yes, sir.
So we know that one's a tough one for you guys. You really want to talk about the old stuff, and I appreciate that. And we will get right back to it. But for some of these weeks, we got to slip in the stuff that is still Pontiac, but maybe no one really wants to remember. This is not one to be forgotten. There are some ones we will cover later, some Canadian stuff, and the few that maybe shouldn't have been anything at all. But this is one I want you to realize this was a pretty decent car and a fairly reasonable attempt at trying to bring back the small car, big engine, rear wheel drive to the market. It obviously failed, but it only failed because it just wasn't done right. It could have been done differently. It could have been marketed differently. And at the end of the day, it could have been fed to a crowd that was willing to receive it. We, at the time, what was that, 2004 through 2006, this is post 9/11. This is, prepping for the housing bubbles. And we just weren't ready for this car. Here it is, 2022, coming up to 2023. I bet a few of us go out and start looking at these Pontiac GTOs on Marketplace just to see what's out there.
You would have thought, though, since they discontinued the F-body in 2002, that GM handed them a V8 rear-wheel drive available with the manual transmission car that it would have sold.
It should have. And yeah, I'm curious to look at some of the socioeconomic factors that may have also played into the fact that they just put a GTO badge on a Holden. But reality is that's not what kept it from selling. If the Pontiac Aztec could sell, that was one of the ugliest things. But they sold it as a utility vehicle, right? It even had the pop-up with the trunk on the tent on the back.
Okay, so I believe that they actually sold more of the mid-'80s Pontiac Lemanses than they did this GTO, which is very
likely
sad.
So. Yeah. I mean, you have to look at, they only had so many to ship over here to begin with, and then you add in that the sales price was a little higher than maybe some other equivalent in a 4-cylinder or even a V6. So you're getting an 8-cylinder car, but at that point in time, did people even appreciate that?
Yeah, but I'm just saying that if you think doing this to the GTO was bad, what they did to the Le Mans was
yes.
that should have never happened. Somebody should have been fired immediately. Rehired again.
Big corporations, government regulations, they tend to intervene. So just to recap, guys, this was the first of the last. This was a 2004 Pontiac GTO. It packed a 5.7-liter LS1 V8. It made, so they claim, 350 horsepower and 365 foot-pounds of torque. That ain't bad for a small car. By 2005, they put in the bigger 6-liter LS2 V8, and that pushed it up to 400 horsepower, 400 foot-pounds of torque, and a top speed of 180 miles an hour. 0 to 60 in 4.8 seconds with that 6-speed manual. It was even capable of a 13-second quarter mile. When you take an LS2 powered model, it features hood scopes, the split rear exhaust. It was just an impressive car, hands down. And just like Roxy from Flying Sparks Garage, that car has been a little modified, but it's a heck of a car. All right, so by 2006, they added some different color options. You know, they blacked out the tail lights, which is kind of a cool option. But otherwise, it was the same car as 2005, and it just didn't survive. All right, Hunter got it. He got the last word in.
Oh, man.
He's right. So Dean is absolutely right. So when you are in an entire field of cars that are all front wheel drive, 4-cylinder, maybe 6, but most of them 4-cylinder, and you have a car that looks like a front wheel drive car, it's sized about the size of a front wheel drive car, but wait, it's rear wheel drive and it's V8, and you can get it at 6-speed. I just don't think it was appreciated by that era of drivers. But now, especially with all the electric stuff coming down, I think these cars are going to get a little resurgence. And just like Hunter said, this is why they're expensive. Because people now recognize, oh, wait, I don't want a 4-cylinder Cruise. I don't want a Chevy Volt. I don't want a turbo hybrid whatever. I want a dirty, raw, nasty GTO, LS powered, 400 horse, burning the tires off car. And there you go.
Well, if you go into Marketplace and you look up GTO, this is what comes up. Not the 60s.
Here, let's zoom you.
They're all the. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me go back. This is what you find. There are hardly any old ones. So if a guy wanted to get into a GTO or wanted a kind of performance car, not everybody can afford a muscle car, though. So, I mean, let's be honest. At least they're getting a American-made front-wheel or rear-wheel drive V8 car.
You could drive that car every day.
Yeah, it's better than a Honda Civic.
For sure.
Especially if your Honda Civic was purple.
You could haul the kids back and forth if you don't have 15 kids. You could go to the grocery store, pick up the mail. You could drive it back and forth to work, and it's going to get decent gas mileage because it's an LS. They get somewhere in the 20s, unless you're really crazy and drive it, well, like you.
Hey, now. Okay, you're right.
You haven't broke it this time.
No, I haven't tried.
Which I'm proud of you, by the way. All right, guys. Let's see. Have we lost a bunch of people? No, nope. We got 20 people still here. So this is the part of the show where you get to jump in. You get to truly be involved. We are going to do Pontiac trivia. All right, guys. Now, as usual, we're going to do some Pontiac trivia. I will warn you. Oh, yeah, you got to check out my Perpetual Project shirt. If you didn't get one, you are failing.
I didn't get one. Of course, that they didn't help me build my car in the pit either. I wasn't cool enough.
They built my car enough at the end to get it running and driving, and I still got a T-shirt.
I know.
All right, so Pontiac trivia. We may cover a little bit of Holden stuff. So for those of you that might have that direct related experience or proximity to a Holden plant, you might be able to answer this better. So here we go. Now you kind of touched on this, but let's see if anyone remembers. What year did Holden make the first Monaro? Was it A, 1952, B, 1968, C, 1980, or D, 2004? Colleen says 1980. She is on top of it today. All right. I love it when they're all over the place.
Where did Dakota come from?
Oh, Dakota's been here.
I didn't see him.
He was here at the very beginning.
He's been.
All right. We got
quiet.
C. We got D. We got A. Hunter says D. Remember, we're talking about the first Holden Monaro, not the first Pontiac. Tim says 1980. Dean says B is for ballistic. Dr. Art says 2004. C. And Dakota says I'm a sniper.
Oh, Irish Outlaw says C too.
All right. Let's see who is the closest. By the way, if you don't realize, we have folks in our chat that may or may not live near a Holden plant. You need to understand that. So the correct answer was B. Thank you, Dean Stevenson. 1968 was Holden's new coupe introduced, the Monaro.
It looks like a Dodge Dart.
It kind of does. Now, they've got a little sticker thing across the windshield, so you know the windshield's probably a little taller, but it's kind of a cool car. Little skinny tires. Can you imagine putting some wide tires on the back of that?
I'm sure they're running around with big blocks and blowers and shit.
The Aussies know how to party. Okay. Now, again, this is not directly Pontiac, but it's directly related to what we're talking about tonight. Oh, Alan's right. It does kind of look like a Falcon. Let's go back to that.
Yeah, I can see that in the front.
I could see I could see a Duster. I can see a Falcon. Yeah. All right. How did the Holden Monaro get its name? Was it A, named after the Monaro's designer's daughter? Was it named after a river in Egypt where steel mining takes place? C, was it named after a region in New South Wales, Australia? Or D, was it named after the GM executive running Holden at the time? Oh, Hunter's on it.
Yeah.
Cousin Mike says Egypt. Jay, do you just think everything looks like an AMC?
That's because he has one.
He's right, though. It does kind of have that shape. All right. Dakota says C. Mr. Polo says D. Alan says D. Collins, D. Dean Stevenson says C. Really, guys, I love that you're answering early. You might want to wait for Dean. And Nathan says, nope. And you can't have Mopar without Tim says, not a clue.
Oh, you can't.
Hunter says, I'm going to change my answer. There we go. That's. Thank you, Dean. Man. That is exactly that. If it's not the answer, that should be the answer. We're going to give that one to Dean. But he is correct. The answer is C, named after a region in New South Wales, Australia. I even found a picture on the Google.
That's a bummer. There's no kangaroos out there.
Oh, they're there. They're like Dakota. They're snipers. You got kangaroo snipers. They'll jump up and kick in the forehead.
Well, it had to have been a tough car. It came from Australia, and everything in Australia is tough because everything there wants to kill you.
Well, what if the car wants to kill you?
I mean, it's possible.
It is one of the issues why they stopped bringing that car over was to meet the federal guidelines for airbag safety in the U.S. The car would have had to be retooled from Australia standards to U.S. standards, which means more money put into the car before it even gets delivered when the car was already overpriced by $5,000.
We have too many safety regulations. I'm just saying.
Yeah, when you get into a crash and it's like the old cartoons and all the airbags deploy and you just don't move, it is safe. But, we don't have a seatbelt, so we die like real men.
Yeah, we die like real men. You really don't have any seatbelts, though. I saw that.
Hey, 63, it was optional. I have a padded dash. Dakota, then they sacrifice you while I play their didgeridoo. Oh, yeah. All right. Next question, guys. Back to an actual Pontiac question. Did Pontiac make a Holden-based GTO convertible? A, true, or B, false? They did make one. True or false? And Dean says, you call that an airbag? How about this knife? That's not a knife. This is a knife.
Oh, man. You know what's bad, though? There's a lot of kids in the chat who's like, what are they talking about?
Crocodile Dundee. Paul Hogan. My dad was a huge fan, and before he passed away, I asked him what he wanted to see before he had terminal cancer. So I was like, what do you want to see before you go? If you had the chance to do something tomorrow. And he goes, I want to go to Australia. Why do you want to go to Australia? Well, I really liked watching those Crocodile Dundee movies. I thought it'd be cool to go visit. So unfortunately, his health never got to the point we could send him to Australia. But in the last year he was alive, I was able to contact Paul Hogan's PR rep. And she, together with a team of awesome folks from Australia, did a card shower for my dad and sent him tons of postcards and magazines and stuff, all from Australia.
That's awesome.
It was awesome. So he got to go without going. They brought it to him. All right. Let's see what we got here. We got some trues. We got some falses. Let's see. Hunter is not. Okay, here we go. No prototypes, no concepts. And to completely appease Hunter, the answer this week is false. Even though you're looking at it right there. It wasn't a Pontiac. It was the Holden Monaro, 4-seater convertible. It was codenamed Maryland. Remember Maryland Monaro? Dean knows what he's talking about, man. So this was a fully operational one-off concept car. It was never intended to reach production, but they built it in 2002, left-hand drive for the U.S. And what was it? TWR Engineering at $2 million to build that car.
Woo.
So why? Because they can. That's why. So yes, Pontiac never did it. Holden did work with TWR to look into building one. And of course, it never came to fruition. There it is. It's over and done with.
Good, because I don't like it.
Well, Dean, Marilyn Monaro, he knows what he's talking about. I'm telling you, we get the best people in our chat. They know their stuff, and they love to participate. So thank you, guys. All right. Sorry again, it's not a Pontiac-only question, but it really fits what we're doing this week. So despite discontinuing the Monaro platform in 2006 for both the Holden and the Pontiac, what British company then took the platform and carried it on? Ha! Okay, Punisher knows, so keep it to yourself for a moment. Is it the A, Ultima Evo, the B, Lotus Carlton, the C, Jensen Interceptor? I just love that name. Or the D, and I'm going to mess this one up, Vauxhall VXR 500.
I say, Dylan, you had better get this right.
Hunter. We're going to call this Hunter's Holden Sour Hour. Come on, Dean, you got all the best lotto numbers. So Arrowhead wishes they'd made the vertible GTO.
Hunter's
and he wishes the 2009 had an LS. Yeah, we all wish the G6 had an LS.
Hunter was not going to answer. Do you see this? He's like,
oh yeah,
Dean, where's my answer?
Mopar, you can't have Mopar without Tim is guessing. So was I. That's why I looked it up. Thought it was a good question.
It is.
But let's see what the answer is. D.
Ding, ding, ding. Yep.
Punisher knew that. See, it looks almost exactly the same. It's got the cool little hood scoops. It's even got the little Pontiac style little recess right there in the middle.
You want to know how
it's a little updated. How'd you know this?
Playing video games.
Oh. I didn't know that.
I think it was Gran Turismo, but I'm not 100% sure. But it was on one of the games I played.
This car is actually pretty sick. So they took where Holden and Pontiac left off. They really did. And they said, hey, let's kick it up a notch. So they were able to get this car up to 500 horsepower, go to 0 to 62 in 4.8 seconds. They put a supercharger, Harp supercharger on them to that 6-liter. Those 6-liters love boost. They crave it. So you put this little bit of airflow into them and they take off. Oh, and it was so popular and so loved that Top Gear actually named it their car of the year in 2004. That's pretty cool.
As we should have.
Oh, Mr. Polo says it was the Vauxhall Monaro in Need for Speed, but it's not.
Okay. Well, I knew it was the Vauxhall.
Yes.
And I have probably seen it on Top Gear actually too. So.
All right. Let's see how many more we got here. I don't know that I mentioned it in the history, so let's see if you guys are paying attention. What date did the absolute final GTO roll out of the Holden Elizabeth plant? Is it A, January 4th, 2005? Because remember, you got to import-export kind of thing. Is it B, June 14th, 2006? Is it C, April 15th, 2007? Or D, August 30th, 2009? All right, Dakota's got an idea for another episode.
I agree. We may cover that at some point.
There is nothing wrong with a Pontiac beating a Ferrari. We like that.
Especially a Pontiac with a Hemi head.
Unfortunately, we can't get a hold of Mickey Thompson. He is unavailable for a interview. But we'll see what we can do. All right, a lot of people saying C. Hunter's going with D. Dean is right. Everything is better with boost.
Especially LS stuff.
Yes.
Any of them.
They love it. They just love boost. All right. Everybody's going with C. I didn't see with Dean. What did he say? Oh, ballistics for B. Yeah, I got you. I'm following you, Dean. And Dean is once again correct. June 14th, 2006. Basically, just it cost too much to make the car and ship it over here. So they rolled out the last GTO from the Holden Elizabeth plant June 14th, 2006, which is the end of an era. I was actually kind of going down the trail of that whole Elizabeth plant because it's no longer open either. And I thought, well, there's a whole story to tell there, but that's a Holden trail and we're trying to keep it Pontiac. So history's fun.
Hunter made
all right.
Disbonus.
Oh, did he guess D? Yeah, you got it wrong, Hunter. Sorry. Or Dakota. Hunter went with whatever Dean said. All right, so that's it for the trivia for Pontiac Power Hour. We know that most of it was Holden related, but it fit the agenda for this week. So thank you guys for jumping in the chat and answering, especially Dean kind of nailed all of them. Leighton, where have you been, buddy? And Dean says, nothing called Elizabeth is still around. Yeah.
Oh.
I was reading that. It's just gone.
Maybe too soon. I don't know. The English people may be upset by that. You're lucky we don't have no English people in here. I don't think so.
You never know. Maybe somebody's trolling us and they'll come and give us a down thumb. Or
I don't know if they're allowed to have internet over there.
It went with the Queen. It's too soon. All right, guys. Well, that wraps up the Pontiac Power Hour. We appreciate everybody jumping in, getting in the chat, putting it out there. We had a great crowd tonight. We got to see a lot of new people here for this show. I did not see Derek from Vice Script, but that's okay. He knows about us. He knows we have a show, and you never know. He just may pity us enough to jump in later and talk about his latest Pontiac build he did for Motor Trend. All right. You got anything else for us?
No. And if you guys didn't like this one, I apologize. I thought it would be kind of neat to cover the newer GTO, but I promise. So we got next week is episode 10. It's kind of a milestone for us. So if you guys have ideas,
we're working on some special stuff, but you guys put your ideas out there.
Put them in the comments. We'll read them so we can see what you guys want to see. But I got some ideas.
I do too. So we're going to put our heads together, come up with a great show for number 10 for you guys. Thanks for always joining in the chat. And I guess we'll see you next week.
Yep. Later, everybody.